And feel a comforting energy down the back of your neck. Begin to sense and feel also that our connection in of itself can be a healing quality. The connection that we have through yoga, through the Vedic sciences. Inhale, hands come to heart center. Sahana bhavatu, sahanao ponatu, saha viryam karvavahai, Tirjasvi tejasvi tamastu. Ma Vinveshavahai. Aum. So once again, welcome. Very glad to be with you this morning. I'd like to start by commenting on a post that was offered by Krista. Thank you for your extended post on this week's forum. And Krista pointed out several asana, several postures that were good for each of the vayus. And I want to offer that although poses, I believe, asana in of themselves, yoga in of itself is a healing practice, that is, when we use the asana for therapeutic benefits, it's really important that we begin to acknowledge, I guess I'll say, the variances between individuals. And so sometimes it's difficult to have a direct answer or a one pose fits all kind of answer. So with that said, I would encourage all of you to chime in on Krista's post, because it really is lovely and really went into great depth, offering different poses. And I really would like to talk about each of the poses on the forum and have a greater understanding why each of the poses may or may not be good for any particular person, or may not be good for yoga therapy as a whole. So please join in on that conversation as we move forward. So we begin with an understanding of where we've been in the last week, which was looking at asanas for each vayu. Today we're going to focus on asanas for Agni. Agni, as we know, is responsible for digestion and metabolism. When Agni is not functioning properly, food does not digest. And we know that Ama causes, well, in my view, and of course Ayurveda's view, causes disease. When the digestive system is healthy, we are vital, have clear skin and eyes. The mind is clear, happy, and free from headaches, stress, and tension. The 4 stages of Agni include Vishamagni, Tikshna Agni, Manda Agni, and Sama Agni. Yoga asanas, pranayama, and meditation work to stabilize Agni by virtue of stimulating and or pacifying, therefore balancing Agni at a higher level than medication. What I love about pranayama, meditation, and asana is it can be given as a protocol when people are still on Western medication. In other words, we don't have to um, have the Western medication completely stop before asana, pranayama, meditation are of use. The Hatha Yoga Pradapika gives us yoga practices which stimulate, pacify, and balance Agni. I always like to, I guess I'll say, mirror, or what is it when you look at something that is this when you're I'm having one of those moments where I can't think of the word. Well, when you're comparing, sorry, I always like to compare my practice, yoga therapy practice, with texts, great texts like the Hatha Yoga Pradapika. I like to look at the works of the great sages, of course, and compare once again. Yes, we use them for guidelines, but more importantly, we should use them as a way to stimulate. Excuse me, I'm having. All right, I'm back. That's what happens when you don't cover like a douche in the morning, huh? All right. So the point that I'm bringing forward today is in reference to the understanding that although there are great texts and there are great resources, including modern day resources, there's a point that we have to trust our inner judgment. Of course, that inner judgment should be based on a well-educated background and should be a judgment that can be, more importantly, something that you can justify, in other words. So if anything, I want to bring forward the idea and the energy of empowering each one of you to practice in a way that you think is best. I'm talking about practicing in the way, practicing yoga therapy. Otherwise, it becomes stale. The practice, all of it becomes stale. Otherwise, our own mind, our own capacity to become like the sages, so to speak, to have that internal energy that helps you not only learn, but then grow. So while I'm offering things from the Hatha Yoga Pradapika, I really think it's important that you go outside of the box, so to speak, and you enter into lively discussion and contemplation, as Krista did, put herself out there on the forum and offered so many of the different asanas. And I believe this is how you and I learn. And I don't know everything. And in some senses, oh, this is a scary place to go to for me. But in some places, I even believe that we can expand on that great knowledge of the sages. And so I want you to be bold. That's what I'm saying. Be bold, go out there and practice in a way that is practice yoga therapy with your clients in a way that it's innovative, creative. That is when your clients get the best out of the yoga therapy. Remember, they're keying off your energy. So it isn't so much a recipe or something that we can always follow perfectly, exactly. It's something that we have to move and meld with our energy and our client's energy. And that's how I believe yoga therapy is at its best. You can comment or you can use that to invigorate your forum discussion, and I hope it does. So, looking forward, Vata dosha imbalance comes from eating light and airy food, an improper daily routine, and we know from inadequate stress management. The Hatha Yoga Pradapika says that the practice of Matsyendrasana, which stimulates Agni, is a weapon to destroy the diseases around the umbilicus. It bestows upon those persons who practice it arousal of Kundalini, or the energy at the base of the spine, and stability of the mind. That's a big thing to accomplish, isn't it? We know that Matsyendrasana, many of you are yoga teachers or have practiced for a long time. Many of you know that Matsyendrasana is a twist. Of course, twist would not be given to pregnant women. And sometimes I might even say twists are not given to the very weak. Those who have very weak spine line can do a great deal of damage to the spine when they twist. So it's only those that can hold themselves upright and have the spine line completely supported with the abdominal muscles and erector spinae and all the wonderful supporting muscles on the side and front of the belly. It's only those people that should be doing twists in a seated position. Otherwise, of course, we would refer back to a reclining twist, and reclining twists, just because they are reclining, they have that base of the floor or a bed or a cushion. The spine line is really nice and straight. In my view, there's no moving forward in any kind of asana without proper alignment to the spine. So Matsyendrasana, and may I say here, it's not so much Matsyendrasana in of itself, it's the twisting poses in general. So Vajrasana brings extra blood in the stomach for digestion. Pawanmuktasana, the wind relieving pose, if you'll remember that, a variation of the wind relieving pose is just lying back on the floor, sofa, mattress, and bringing the knees into your chest. There's a very difficult variation of Pawanmuktasana where you're standing on one leg and bringing one knee up into your chest and wrapping around the leg in a standing position. Of course, that kind of a deep wind relieving pose would be very difficult to accomplish for most people. So in that case, the reclining version again is a very wonderful pose. The big thing we want to look at here is when we're talking about the hero pose. Hero pose can be very difficult for a lot of people to enter into because of knee issues, knee imbalances. And so there again, we had a little bit of a discussion last week concerning using props. Maybe this would be a wonderful time that we would use props. I'm not a big fan of props. In my view, if you need the prop, you probably need to choose a different pose. But definitely the hero pose is one of those that can be accomplished very easily without, with the use of props, pillow in between the knees at the calves or so forth. So when we look at burning in the throat and chest with symptoms of vomiting, sour taste in the mouth, we know that this is a primary Pitta dosha imbalance. And from this, we can look at what Hatha Yoga Pradapika says, and it relates to the Paschimottanasana, the seated forward fold. Now, of course, there are variations of forward fold, including standing forward fold. And I'm wondering if the forward folds are always going to be something good, again, for the client. Remember, most people have difficulty when they forward fold. The reason is they normally have too tight hamstrings or lower back. Sometimes people may not even have the strength in the back to elongate the spine before they forward fold. So 9.9 out of 10 people accomplish or attempt forward fold in an incorrect manner. And although Paschimottanasana is a wonderful pose, I mean, it's lovely and it's mentioned in the Hatha Yoga Pradapika, I rarely give it to clients for a yoga therapy purposes. And that's because most people cannot accomplish it properly. And I'll even say, even with the use of props. Although this is a wonderful pose and may help with many, many disorders, we have to use it very sparingly and make certain that the client that we're giving it to, the patient we're giving it to, has a great understanding of how to activate the front of the body, meaning the belly, the chest, and even into the neck area before they forward fold. And not only that, they should be able to extend through the whole of the spine line where the back is mostly straight. And you'll see, even if you try this for yourself, a seated forward fold, if you try to keep that low back as it should be with that slight curve, the slight curve in the low back, and then a longer spine in the mid, maybe a 2-3 degree, very gentle slope in the thoracic. And then again, there's a deep indentation in the regular portion of the spine at the neck area. Very few people can maintain Paschimottanasana with that spine line. So I'll say it again, Paschimottanasana is not one of my favorites. It is very beneficial, but you, the yoga practitioner, the yoga therapist, or aspiring yoga therapist, or Ayurveda counselor using yoga as therapy, really make certain that the person understands how to use Paschimottanasana in a safe and effective way. So here we'll focus on Setu Bandhasana and twist in general. We talked about twists at the beginning, but I really want to go into them a bit further. Setu Bandhasana, or the bridge, is really lovely. It's a gentle stretch for the front of the body. It aids Tikshna, Agni, by bringing soft awareness to the belly and back. Here's what I like. Maybe I should have highlighted this: without effort. Most people have imbalance, Tikshna Agni, because it's overrun. There's too much of it. There's too much effort in everything that is done for a person who has vitiated Tikshna Agni. I love Setu Bandhasana because it really is something that probably 100% of people can accomplish. Say for those maybe who have had a recent surgery, say within the past couple of weeks, past couple of months, they wouldn't be able to get into Setu Bandhasana. I will say bridge pose is probably, I use bridge pose as a go-to, so to speak, asana, more than any other pose in yoga therapy, or maybe together with a couple of others, but it definitely is one of my go-to postures for people. It really helps not only with the Tikshna Agni, but in general, it helps with the whole of the spine line. And there we can think of invigorating and balancing the chakras, the vayus, all of it. It really is a lovely, beautiful pose. It can be used with variations that will, for instance, invigorate Kapha dosha, or used with variations that will help pacify Vata and Pitta dosha. So Setu Bandhasana, really, really lovely go-to kind of a asana. Twists again. Remember this, twists are invigorating for the internal organs. They really do help. They're very helpful for cleansing the liver, invigorating the kidneys, and the digestive in general. They help to, it's a funny thing is they help to invigorate, but they also help to balance, to calm that digestive area. Of course, we shouldn't be doing twists, I'll say it again, if we're pregnant or we have back injury. Remind yourself that twists always enter and exit with an exhale. Most people forget about the breath. We had a little bit of a discussion about the breath and the importance of the breath in yoga therapy in general. But we want to make certain that when we enter an exit twist, that we're entering with an exhale. And this is because when we exhale, we usually take in Uddiyana Bandha. We take in the belly towards the spine. I'm going to have to take another break, excuse me. All right, I'm back. I live in a very dry area in New Mexico. We had an unbelievable dry windstorm yesterday and put a lot of dust everywhere. But maybe more importantly, that's a sign to me that Vata dosha is definitely becoming out of balance. Very, very happy to be back. Here we go. We know that Sati Bandhasana is kind of a go-to asana, can be used very easily, has very little likelihood of creating imbalance because of improper use. We know that twists can be invigorating, but they also can be really pacifying in a very beautiful way. But twists can be very, if done improperly, can create harm. So we really want to make certain that we just don't give out asana in a haphazard kind of way and then create imbalance instead of creating balance. What are the variations of bridge for Kapha and Vata? We can think of the one-leg bridge as being very invigorating, the one-leg bridge pose, and that can be accomplished with the one leg extending even with the knee or the one leg high in the air. Of course, the supported bridges are very pacifying for Vata dosha. Now, a lot of people have difficulty performing a supported bridge in the classical way. In other words, with the hands under the back, the fists under the back, the palms, the heel of the hand under the back. So in that case, we're moving now into a discussion about using props. In this sense, you may or may not want to choose a different pose than the supported variation. But in general, where the client can relax and be completely in that, sukhasana, that happy place, that really comfortable place, that's what we're looking for. And the best way that we can create it is going to be the best pose for the client. So Kapha dosha is we want to create more effort. We still want them calm and relaxed, but creating more effort. So then the one leg variation. And then for the Vata dosha or Vata imbalances in general, then using a supported bridge variation. Thank you for the question. I appreciate that. So let's look at something that many of our clients will come to us with, and that is with improper weight or imbalance that leads to obesity. These imbalances usually affect not only, of course, the digestive, but the thyroid, the pituitary, and other glands. Mayurasana, we talked about. Now, Mayurasana kindles Jathara Agni and completely digests all the unwholesome and overeaten food, even poison, says a Hatha Yoga Pradapika. Mayurasana, if you'll remember, has the hands backward and your elbows in your stomach. Now, not too many people are going to be able to accomplish that pose. Not too many people. And even if you take the variations that include, for instance, the tabletop variation where you're just kneeling and have the hands backward and putting light pressure, your elbows into the abdominal area, even maybe 50% of people can accomplish that one. So here we have a pose that it's suggested in this very important text, but it's a pose that most people cannot do. So here's where we have to go out of the box, right? Here's where we have to use our own intellect, creativity, our own ideas about what would be best for Agni. And this might be thinking of poses that would put, I don't want to say pressure, but invigorate the belly center. And knowing just what we've learned today, we know that that twists would be a wonderful variation, wouldn't they? Not the plank pose especially. Let's think about plank pose. The high plank, the low plank, Chaturanga Dandasana, the side plank, Vashisthasana. I mean, they're more balancers in general. I want to say they don't invigorate as strongly as Mayurasana would. I'm not talking about just using the belly. I'm talking about really invigorating. So this often means some kind of pressure, some kind of, maybe the best way to put it would be to say some kind of body to body gentle pressure, that kind of pressure or sensation you get when you do a twist. Now, I like the idea that you have about plank in general, but when we're talking about someone who has obesity, I would opt for something that's a little more deep, a little more active. I like the idea of Sphinx a lot. I think that's a beautiful idea, Pamela. And the reason for this is because we have that little bit of pressure again, so to speak. We have that contact with the floor in Sphinx, don't we? Yet we're not coming up very high. We're not doing anything that's going to hurt the spine. So I think Sphinx is a lovely idea. Chair pose. I think chair pose is a lovely idea. However, if we twist, if we take chair pose, the belly, well, yes, we're invigorating the front of the back or the front of the body and the back muscularly. We're creating heat in that area in general. But if we're talking specifically about obesity, we want to create something in there that's more intense. And that usually, again, means that we have body-to-body contact like we would have in Mayurasana, elbows in the belly. We would have our belly in the floor, like Pamela said in the Sphinx. That's a really great one. Or we would have some kind of a twist. And chair pose, are we really, do we have our body, up close to our legs in that pose? Our midsection, not really. Our midsection is up. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. Thank you for your input. So let's look forward here. And I'm wondering about bow. Now, remember, when we give yoga therapy, we're talking different than a class. In a class, you can sequence so that, the bow pose can be done safely. But I have never, ever, ever, in all the years practicing yoga therapy, given bow pose. And the reason is because it's a wonderful pose, no doubt about it. And I've never given Mayurasana. It says in the Hatha Yoga Pradapika to give Mayurasana, but I've never given either one of those. And that's because it's not a basic pose for nearly close to 100% of people. It's not a pose that can be done easily without preparation of the spine or other processes of the body. So yeah, bow's a little too intense. But thank you for your input. You're going in the right direction in thinking about what invigorates, the midsection. Here we go again, talking about invigoration, so to speak. Vajrasana is the only posture or hero pose that should and can be performed after meals. This posture is suitable before and after meals because it has a reduction of the blood to the lower extremities. Think of it, when you have the knees bent, some people even say, "Ooh, it makes my feet numb or my legs numb," this, that, and the other. And that's because flow is being restricted, blood flow is being restricted there. But the good thing is blood flow is being amplified where? To the midsection. Navasana invigorates the belly and cultivates tapas, aiding tamasika mind and kapha body. Navasana's beautiful boat pose. There are, so many variations of boat pose. I love doing the half version, the half leg version, the supported version, many, many ways to practice Navasana safely. Remember, we talked about this, I think, a couple of sessions back. If it's hurting your tailbone, the practice of boat pose, you probably need to move forward onto the sit bones and off of the sacrum. The thyroid gland is a butterfly-shaped gland in the front of the trachea. The main function of thyroid is to control metabolism. The thyroid helps maintain Jatha Agni. Even a small increase in thyroid function increases appetite, resulting in excess food intake. Or in the case of hypothyroidism, it results in decreased food intake. The thyroid gland is stimulated by the brain's response to stress and is responsible for the release of hormones to maintain mental balance as well. The Hatha Yoga Pradapika, the practice of Sarvangasana, increases Jatha Agni. One who practices daily should eat ample food. If he eats insufficient food, the increasing fire soon consumes the body. So Sarvangasana is a go-to pose for thyroid imbalances. Hatha Yoga Pradapika says it's one of the best. It's often called as the queen of poses, headstand being the king of poses. Shoulder stand is the queen of poses. Well, I have a great deal of people with thyroid imbalances in my private practice, but I can't give them shoulder stand. And why can't I give them shoulder stand once again? It's because of the nature of the posture. It requires, shoulder stand is thought of being a finishing posture, a posture done at the end of a sequence of postures that have prepared the spine, that have prepared the breath and the mindset to be in it comfortably. So even though Sarvangasana is a wonderful posture, it's a very difficult one to give as a private practitioner, to give to one of your clients. So what could we think of that would create the same kind of structure to the back of the neck and the front of the neck that Sarvangasana gives? Any feedback here? Even though Sarvangasana, the shoulder stand, has variations with our legs up the wall, it's still really intense. I've been practicing yoga for a great deal of time, and I don't go into shoulder stand cold. In other words, I don't do shoulder stand on its own. It's a very intense posture. So what would we think might be a good one? Thank you for your input. Let's see. Viprita Karini. I love it. Perfect. Legs up the wall. 2 legs up the wall. Dvipada Vipariti Karini. 2 legs up the wall is, again, a go-to for me. If I have 5 postures that I go to time and time again for many things, many things, including improving metabolism and Agni, it is 2 legs up the wall pose. 2 legs up the wall can be done by close to 100% of people. I can't think of one person that I said that I wanted to give 2 legs up the wall to, and I thought, oh, no, they can't do it. Everyone can do it, and maybe I'll even say everyone should do it. So lovely input there. Anyone else have an idea of what might be good? If you know the rabbit pose is a very accessible pose to people. It's on your knees and you fold forward and tuck the head in towards your knees. If that isn't accessible, think of this sitting and just taking the chin towards the chest. Just a sitting posture and tucking the chin in. I frequently will tell people to roll up a washcloth and place it underneath their neck to create the lock that's needed for this posture, for this awareness in the neck. Cat, I think, is lovely, lovely. See, now we're beginning to think and process what we know intuitively and what we know that can help safely. Modified camel. I'm kind of a yes, no, maybe so in camel. I really liked Sphinx because it's earlier because it's a gentle, tiniest little of a back bend. But even a modified camel is intense. Why? Because it's a back bend. And even if you keep your spine straight and don't have any kind of a back bend and just look up, it's very intense for the spine line. Most people don't have strong enough back or belly to keep the spine line safe while they lift up and look up their head. So may I offer maybe just a seated position and looking upward. How's that? They're seated in their chair. More importantly, it might be one of those poses that you can give with a cue. In other words, every time you hang up your phone at your desk, look up. How simple is that? Their spine line is completely supported with their chair back, and they look up. So let's see what else we have in the chat. Okay, anything else anyone would like to offer? But I think those are lovely, lovely. Remember, if the spine line needs supporting, most people who are ill or have imbalances cannot support their spine line properly. So you want to give poses that are either supported by a chair, a bed, the floor, something where the spine line can be completely supported and they can find that happy, easy posture. I'm going to take about a 10-second break. Excuse me. Thank you. All right. Thank you again for your patience this morning. And moving forward, or maybe let me take a look at your chat and see what we have here. I'm confused. I thought we were compressing thyroid chin down. Why look up instead? Well, we're talking about imbalances. And yes, you are completely right. But let's talk about if someone has an imbalanced thyroid, they need more air in, so to speak. They need more energy in. Someone that needs to, that would be someone who's maybe both hypothyroid. Yes, they need more air in. Think of someone who is imbalanced in a way that there's too much kapha there. Can I say it that way? Yes. Does it invigorate it if they tuck their chin down? Definitely invigorates it and brings more fire. So thank you. I love that you're thinking, yes, tucking the chin in is going to, for the purposes of our discussion today, is going to invigorate Agni, isn't it? It's going to really kindle fire. It's tension, if I want to say tapas inducing, that kind of fire that comes from the beautiful friction when we tuck our chin under. But it's also equally important to lengthen the front and bring in more air for people who have the low thyroid. So it's not just, the fire needs air in that respect, but we also need more Vata energy. We're not talking about Vayu today, but we have to think of it in the whole context, not just one-dimensionally. We have to think about the whole aspect of balance, and that's going to include what we've already learned, and that is balancing the Vayus as well. All right? Does that make sense? I like that you caught that, though, Pamela. I think you're thinking, but I want you to broaden more. Think of the whole balance. It isn't just applying heat to something. It's also looking at how the Vayus are being affected. And I might even say it, that it's a classical thing to do when we give someone a yoga posture, is that we'll stretch the front of the body. Let's think of looking up with the chin, and then we'll tuck the front of the body. In other words, there's an opening or an expansion of the body on one side, and there's a closing and a restricting on the opposite side. So I might be moving too far ahead because it really talks to the sequencing of asana in a class in general, that you open one side of the body and close the other, and then you just go the opposite direction. You close the front of the body and expand the back of the body. But I think we might be getting too far ahead of ourselves. So when do we use looking up? I'm still confused. Well, if we think about looking up as offering more air in, it would definitely be for someone that we're talking about here in this case, who has hypothyroidism, who needs more air in. Hypothyroidism really is something where there's too much kapha. We need to both expand, bring expansiveness, air in. But then we also want to kindle Agni, don't we? We want to invigorate. And that invigorating in that neck area is going to come through when we tuck our chin. So for someone who maybe had hypothyroidism, I'm not too sure I would give the looking up variation. They're already too Vata. They have too much Vata. They have too much heat even. They have too much Agni, because the air and the heat together, boy, it's just blowing up like a big inferno. So in that respect, for the hyperthyroidism, the high thyroidism, I would tuck the chin and just tuck the chin. to pacify only for kapha or hypothyroidism. Okay? Think of it, bring in the whole context of what you know about dosha imbalance, what you know so far of vayus, what you know so far of Agni, and then put it all together, bring it all in. Think in general to yourself that all twists, forward bends, sideways bends benefit the digestive system. With caution that the forward bends and sideways bends should be done really carefully, and I rarely give them as individual asana. Twists, again, should be given very carefully as well. Inversions help improve the health and function of the thyroid, thus improving metabolism. Pranayama is relaxing and has a therapeutic effect on digestion, and we can't forget the beautiful energy that prana and the regulation of prana, the beautiful effect it has on the mind, body, and spirit. We're going to leave pranayama for our next discussion, but I'd like to open for now any other comments, questions. I do appreciate all of your questions and comments. The biggest thing I want to reflect on and bring forward is that we all have an individual energy that we're going to be sharing with our clients. And once you have a good understanding of the basics of yoga therapy, I mean, a good understanding of it, including the anatomy, the Western anatomy reasoning for posturing, I think it's a good idea to go out and fly on your own, to trust yourself, to believe in your ability to use posturing outside of the general context of even the Hatha Yoga Pradapika, and to look at things like these wonderful texts and look at them with a discerning eye, to question them, to question me, to say, okay, why is this? Why is that? I think Agni Sara is extremely advanced, and I think we can save that for another time frame, especially because I'm going to encourage you to jump on the forum again and go deeper into these discussions, because I think it's these discussions where we learn the most. So if you'll offer that to the discussion forum, I would appreciate that. We can move deeper into discussion. So with that, if there's no other questions, I will leave you for today. I think you'll probably have a 5-minute or so rest or break. And I appreciate your time. I'll see you next time. Namaste.